If I started my business again from absolute zero, so no budget, no ads, no assistant, only a laptop and an internet connection, what would I do differently? Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm Amy from Rebel Nutrition and I help health coaches and nutritionists create profitable online businesses. But don't worry, even if you aren't a nutritionist or a health coach, I think what I'm going to share with you today is still going to be really beneficial if you're at the beginning stages of your online business and you really want to know what works and what doesn't work from somebody who has done it all themselves. And I wanted to talk about this topic today because as somebody who has now built a 7-figure business over the past 3 to 4 years, there have been a lot of things that have worked out really well for me, and then there have been a lot of things that have been a giant learning experience, let's just say. So I wanted to share them with you guys if I was starting again from absolute zero, which by the way is what I did because I didn't have a budget when I started. These are the things that I would do again and the things that I maybe wouldn't do again. All right, so let's start with everything that I would do again. If I was starting my business from absolute zero, meaning I had no audience on anywhere on social media, I had no email list, I had no budget for ads, no assistant, no experience, none of that. Okay, so the number one thing that I would do again, and I'm really glad that I did from the start, was really focusing my time and energy on the things that were actually making me money in my business. As soon as I started my business, I thought to myself, what is going to be my income generating activity or offer? And number two, how am I going to build my audience around that thing? And that's always what I focused my energy on. So yes, of course, I wanted to help people and I wanted to, serve the world, but I also wanted to make money. I wanted to get out of my 9-to-5 job. And I think that's something that a lot of times like people in the health and nutrition world struggle with a little bit is like focusing on money. And like, look, when you're starting a business, I think it's okay to be focused on money so that you can put all of your effort into your business and then help more people. So I don't think that's a bad thing to have a focus on money when you're first getting started. As long as you are providing people with a service that they want and you're giving them something that they need and you're getting paid, I mean, that's a win-win, right? All right, the next thing that I would do again in terms of how I built my audience, and this one you guys are really going to love, I think, is through collaboration. And I talk about this a lot, but collaborating with other people in my same industry and reaching each other's audiences is such a great way to reach a new audience and get in front of new eyes and be positioned as an authority in your space for free. So this can look like free video series, maybe you interview people, or free challenges. I've run many different 5-day free challenges inside my Facebook group, even collaborating on things like podcast episodes or Instagram takeovers. I mean, what you really want to think about and what worked really well for me is just thinking about people that I genuinely love following, that are in my space, that serve a similar audience to mine, and how we can work together and how we can offer people more free value. And honestly, you guys, when you're first starting out, this is one of the best ways, and even now, this is one of the most effective ways for me to reach new audiences and get in front of new eyes that can potentially become, students, clients, customers, all of those good things. Next up, a thing that I would totally do again is write for a publication where your ideal audience or ideal client is hanging out or reading the articles. So back when I was getting started as a nutritionist and in my nutrition business, I knew that I really loved Mind Body Green. And I knew that my ideal client or ideal audience was reading Mind Body Green and also loved Mind Body Green. So it was a big goal of mine to write an article that they would publish on their site. So I actually wrote a blog post on how to get featured in Mind Body Green and how to write an article that they accept. So I will link to that in the show notes. But you guys, it took me maybe 5 different tries to write an article that they finally accepted. And then after that, it was just like snowball effect. I think eventually I wrote like 9 or 10 articles that they published, and a few of them even went viral. And I noticed that the traffic that I got after those articles went viral was huge. I mean, it honestly was the way that really exploded my business onto the scene in the beginning stages. So I highly recommend, not saying that you have to write for Mind Body Green, but if you just think of any sort of publication, maybe Well and Good or Goop or somewhere else that takes submissions, and write an informative article that your audience might be searching for or that really speaks to your ideal audience. Because then when they click over to see who wrote that article, it's gonna be you, and then they might come over to your social media, your blog, your YouTube channel, whatever. All right, the next thing that worked really well for me that I totally would do again is just through outreach and PR, myself. So I obviously, when I first got started, I did not have a publicist. I didn't have anybody doing this for me. But what I did, I would strategically find people in the news media who were writing articles that were similar to ones that I wanted to be featured in or for. So for example, it was a big goal of mine, and it's probably a big goal of everyone's, to be featured in Forbes, right? So that became a goal of mine. And what I started to do was I would go on the Forbes website and I would read articles and I would search for ones that were in the same area that I wanted to be featured in. So I was mainly looking at like entrepreneurial and business articles, things specifically geared at, technology and maybe women in business, things like that. And I would figure out who wrote those articles and I would kind of ethically stalk them, I guess you could say. It's pretty funny. When I did end up getting published in Forbes, I had been stalking the person that wrote that article for maybe like a year. And by stalking, I just mean like following up with him via email, reminding him of who I am, getting on the phone with him. I mean, all of these different things. And eventually I got an article published in Forbes, which is pretty amazing. So I'll also link to that below. But again, as you can imagine, that definitely increased my exposure, my credibility, my audience, and I'm really glad that I did it. But in terms of outreach and PR too, like even if Forbes seems like way out of reach for you if you're first getting started, think about just other people who have podcasts that you would be a really good fit for, or people who have blogs that maybe you could contribute a guest post to. So I know that when I was first getting started and I was still in the nutrition space, somebody who I really loved following, both her podcast and her blog, was Maddie Moon. And we've since then created kind of a working relationship, which is really amazing. But back then I reached out to her and I said, I would love to contribute to your blog because I have some interesting things to say about body image, which was one of the topics that I was talking about at the time. And again, it was a great way. She said yes, which is awesome. And the main way to kind of go about this and make it beneficial for both parties is anybody that you're positioning to collaborate with, make sure you're positioning it as a beneficial thing for them. Because basically you're not just saying hey, can I get onto your blog? Or hey, can I get on your podcast? You're saying hey, I think your audience would really enjoy a piece of content around X, Y, and Z. I can really speak to that. Would you like me to take this off your plate for you and write a blog post for you? I mean, who doesn't want that, right? So that is a really effective way to grow your audience, especially if you're just starting out. All right, the next thing that I did from the beginning that I'm so glad that I did and I for sure would do again was building my email list. And I don't know how or why, but I always really saw the value in building an email list, probably because even right from the beginning, that's where I was getting sales. So every piece of free content that I put out there, I would always have it be a lead magnet, meaning I would always use it as a way to capture people's emails, get them on my email list, and follow up with them from there. And the purpose being is that most people are not ready to buy whatever it is that you're selling right away. They need some, follow up and some nurturing, and maybe 6 months from now or a year or even further into the future, that's when they'll be ready to buy from you. So an email list is a good way to kind of keep all of those warm leads engaged. All right, the next thing that I did that I'm so glad that I did as soon as I did when I started my business was start working on an online course. So it was pretty quick for me to realize after seeing one-on-one clients that I needed to find a different way that was more scalable, because seeing a lot of one-on-one clients was really draining and not scalable. So I'm glad that I started an online course when I did, even though it felt really scary because it was something that I had never done before, because pretty soon after that, I definitely saw the benefits, and now I've been making online courses ever since. Now, on that same note, the last thing I will say about what I'm really glad that I did when I first started my business, and I for sure would do again, and this is kind of more of a mindset piece, but I'm really glad that I quit my serving job when I did, because when I decided to quit my serving job, it was at the time when obviously I was making money from my online courses and my business was really starting to take off, but it still was kind of scary for me because it was sort of at the point where if I didn't continue on the trajectory that my business was going, then I would probably have to have gone back to my serving job. But it felt scary, but it also gave me the motivation to put everything that I had into my business. And so while I know that maybe isn't the best way for everybody, it worked well for me. It really lit a fire under my ass to put everything I had into my business. And I honestly think that is what helped me get to the next level with my business, was just going all in. So if you can do it, highly recommend. All right, now for the fun part that I'm sure you guys are all curious about, like what would I not do again, or what would I do differently? What were the things that were a big flop or a big failure? So the first piece that I'll say about this is that I really don't think there is such thing as failure when it comes to business. I think that you either win and something is a big success, or you learn from it. Even though in the moment it might be really frustrating and difficult, you're still learning something, and as long as you don't quit and as long as you don't give up at that point, it's just a stepping stone to get to another success, right? So that's kind of always the mindset that I've had about any sort of failure, and as I'm going through these, that's kind of how I want you guys to take these. So the number one thing that I would do differently is stay more consistent with YouTube. So the reason that I say that is because if you guys have been following my channel for the past 2 or 3 years, however long I've had it, I've been so sporadic. Like I randomly post a video here and there. It's never the same type of topic or niche. And even with that level of being sporadic and no niche and no plan, my channel continues to grow. And I've had a couple videos that have even gone viral. I mean, I have one video that's almost at 1 million views, and I'm like, what? So I just think to myself, like, imagine if I had been consistent this whole time in creating content on YouTube, how big would my YouTube channel be? How many more people could I be reaching? So that is one thing, and not necessarily saying that YouTube is the thing for you, but just think about whatever social media platform is actually working for you and what it could look like if you actually were consistent there. Okay, the next thing, and I'm not necessarily saying that I wouldn't do this again, but I'm also just not totally sure that I'm all about this thing, and that is ads. So Facebook ads, Instagram ads. I have dabbled in ads a lot since I've started my business 3-4 years ago. I've had different agencies running my ads, so it's not like I'm doing them myself. And in total, I'm estimating that over the past couple years, I've spent $50,000 in ads. And that's not to say that I didn't recoup any of that. I definitely have seen profits from those ads, but for that amount of money, I'm not sure yet that I'm still totally sold on them. And I'm just being totally honest with you guys. This could totally change next month, next year. And I'm not saying that ads wouldn't work for you and that they don't work for people, because I know that they do. I'm just not 100% sold myself. So it's not something that I would definitely recommend to somebody who was just first starting off their business. And if you completely disagree with me, that is okay. Let me know in the comments below, like how they're working for you and if you love them and if they're totally helping your sales. Okay, the next thing, and I'm just laughing because my notes on here say, quit dicking around on Canva and buy some templates. But that is truly the next thing that I would say to for sure do if you're starting your business. Even if you have a very low budget, if you're not a naturally graphically design inclined person, Canva is a great resource. I love Canva. I pretty much make, or I used to make, all of my graphics there. And they have some great templates that you can use and switch out your colors and all of that. But if you aren't super design savvy in the first place, you still might have a little bit of trouble. So the best thing that I did on Canva was I went to Etsy and I bought some templates for different social media platforms that can be used inside Canva. So literally you can just go on Etsy and search like Canva Instagram template or whatever, and you'll see a bunch of stuff come up, but it makes everything so much easier. You can also, if you're somebody who's, making things like PDFs or worksheets or anything like that, you can also find some pretty good templates on there for those. So highly recommend. Usually they're not very expensive. I'm thinking like $5 to $10, and they are so worth it. Stop dicking around on Canva, okay? All right, the next thing that I would not do again is, for a little while, I had this thing called a chat bot. I think that's what it's called. But basically it's on Facebook, and if somebody sent me a message, it would be like an automated response. And the purpose of that automated message inside Facebook Messenger is to grow my email list and to, generate more sales and give people more value. But what I kind of found was that people were generally more interested in how I was making that chat happen than the thing that I was actually trying to give them. And so while it, prompted a lot of conversation with me inside the, the Messenger platform. It didn't necessarily result in a lot of sales. And I also felt like for me personally, it was a little bit too automated. And you guys know I'm all about automations and working smarter and not harder. But there was something about it that just felt a little bit inauthentic to me, that I was like basically having conversations with people, but it wasn't actually me. That something about that just didn't feel right to me. So I probably would not do that again. All right, the next thing that I wish that I hadn't done from the start, and I still think this is a really good tip, it's more mindset related, but if you're starting from the beginning right now, and that is I would stop comparing what I'm doing in my business to other people's. And this is really subtle, you guys. It's not like you're on Instagram and looking at what people are doing and consciously being like, oh my gosh, her stuff is better than mine or whatever. But what I found myself doing was I would constantly be like looking at other people's websites or other people's social media feeds and being like, oh my gosh, I love what they're doing. That looks so good. Like I need to do that. Or, I need to change all of these things on my website now because hers looks so much better than mine, or whatever it is. So pay attention to those subtle things that make you feel like what you are doing is not enough, because they can really derail you and take you away from the magic that is you and the things that are unique about you. So now, anytime that I even get like the slightest hint of that, I just stop looking and I tune more into myself, and I think like, what is true to me? What do I really want my website to look like? What do I want my social media feed to look like? Or whatever it is that relates to your business, and just tune in, because going inward is always going to give you the answer about what is right for your business. Continuing to look at what other people are doing is generally not that helpful. Okay, so last but not least, something that I would not do again is make any decision based on what I think the end result is going to be, or what I think the profit is going to be from that. So even though, like I said, making money is important at the beginning, if you're only ever making decisions based on what you think is going to make you the most money, it's probably not going to be sustainable. It's probably not going to always make you feel the best. And sometimes by following what feels good and what you actually want to be doing, even though you think to yourself, like, I don't know if this is going to have the biggest income return for me, sometimes it can work out even better than you expected. So be aware of shiny object syndrome. And I'll just give you a quick example. Like every once in a while in my business, I get tempted by the shiny object syndrome that is taking on one-on-one clients again, because I know that people really want it. I have people asking me every day, like, can I work with you one-on-one? And while that is really enticing to me in the moment, I just know that my time and energy is so much more effectively spent putting what I know into a course that can then reach a lot of people, rather than me spending one-on-one time with every single person. It's just personally draining for me, and it's not as scalable. And I would prefer to help, hundreds of thousands of people rather than a handful. Plus, having a course versus one-on-ones, even though maybe I'm not making as much money up front as I would with one-on-ones, long term, it's going to 10x whatever I could make with one-on-one clients. So obviously, you guys know I'm very much all about online courses and making things passive, but making decisions based on what feels right for you is always going to trump making a decision based on like, oh, I'm only gonna do this thing because that's how somebody told me I can make money. All right, you guys, I hope this video was helpful for you. And if you are at the beginning stages of your business and you're looking for the step-by-step guide to starting your business from the ground up, maybe you don't have a huge budget to outsource, or you just don't really know what you're doing and you want to learn how to grow your email list, how to finish your website, how to get started on social media, get a digital offer out into the world, all of that good stuff, I would love to have you join my free masterclass, How to Turn Your Passion for Nutrition into a Profitable Online Business. I will link to that below. And you guys, if you aren't a nutritionist, the content in there is still going to apply to you, so don't worry, and I would love to see you there. Also, please remember to hit the red subscribe button and ding the bell so you always get notified whenever a new video comes out. And thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.